Welcome to the Honest Media. I'm Tom Pappert, your host. The Never Trump losers are at it again. They say the democratically elected candidate who received 13.3 million votes, the most votes any Republican has ever received during the primaries, doesn't represent them or their states. And they're spitting in the face of democracy by unbinding the delegates. That's right. All the infamous Trojan horse delegates who were bound to Trump but really supported Lion Ted, Low Energy Jeb, Little Marco, or the other establishment flavors, no longer have to support Trump. They merely have to say, well, it goes against my conscience, and they're free to subvert the will of the people. The will of 13.3 million people, to be exact. And that is what Kendall Unruh is claiming. Unruh, a resident of Colorado, the state that completely canceled its election in order to give all the delegates to Cruz, then tweeted, "We did it, #NeverTrump," is a delegate to the GOP convention and the organizer behind Delegates Unbound. She's been working behind the scenes to steal the nomination from Trump for months, and this week she claims she made it happen. You see, this crooked delegate is also a member of the Rules Subcommittee, the unelected group of delegates who decide what rules the convention will be governed by. Now, with only 2 exceptions since the party began in 1860, the rules have remained the same. Those exceptions? Well, one was to keep Ronald Reagan from securing the nomination. And it worked! Otherwise, we would have had President Ronald Reagan in 1976. According to the Daily Wire's exclusive report, she claims to have the 28 votes within the Republican National Committee she needs to unbind the delegates and allow them to vote their conscience, as she puts it. You see, she claims Trump is a bad, bad man, and it would go against the conscience of any reasonable person to vote for the man who can beat Hillary Clinton, who has a background in philanthropy, who is a successful businessman and by all accounts a terrific father, and the man who an overwhelming majority of Americans want to see go head-to-head against Hillary. According to Unruh, as reported in the Daily Wire, we don't live in a straight democracy where majority rule has the absolute say. We have a measured, representative form of government that allows time for discussion, fact-finding, and wisdom before our elected representatives make the final decision. Let's be clear. She is not talking about how we elect congressmen who go to Washington and express the interests of their constituents. She's talking about a group of just barely elected delegates, who are then assigned to an unelected rules committee, who then decide how these barely elected delegates get to vote. This is really reminiscent of the Soviet Union's party politics. This woman is an unhinged lunatic who sincerely believes Trump does not represent the people who voted for him. She uses arguments like, millions of Democrats crossed party lines to vote for Trump. That's bad. Not realizing the Republican Party needs those Reagan Democrats who cross party lines when a good candidate arises so the Republicans will win in November. She says things like, lots of people voted for candidates other than Trump. Trump's not popular, neglecting to mention that Trump was running in a field of 18 candidates. Of course the votes will be split when you have Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Chris Christie, Mike Huckabee, John Kasich, Ted Cruz, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, and on and on and on running in the same race. Every person running this year was a superstar in their own right, and Trump still got 13.3 million votes, the most votes in Republican history. Unruh is a short-sighted moron, and if she's successful, if the Republican Party denies Trump the nomination after millions and millions of people voted for him, then the Republican Party will be dead overnight. Nobody will vote for the party that refuses to represent its members, and Hillary Clinton will win. Not only that, the Republicans will never recover. Their trust will be gone. I predict it will mean 50 years of Democrats winning every elected office in all but the darkest red of states. A Democrat-controlled Senate, House, the Supreme Court, a Democrat president after Democrat president. If the Republicans destroy their party from within, they could very well destroy America as we know it too. Join me in Cleveland. I'm going to be inside the convention center, and if at all possible, I will hunt this witch down and demand answers. The people deserve to know why she thinks she knows better than 13.3 million voters. The Honest Media will return after the break. Welcome back. I'm Tom Pappert, and this is The Honest Media. Last weekend, we witnessed horrific, violent anti-police protests throughout the United States. In Tennessee, a black man shot at random cars, killing several, and said it was because he wanted to, quote, exterminate white people. In San Francisco, Black Lives Matter protesters blocked I-80 for hours, causing traffic congestion that kept citizens from getting to hospitals, police from answering emergency calls, and emergency services from coming to the aid of those who needed it most. In Minneapolis-St. Paul, Black Lives Matter protesters blocked I-94 for hours. In a standoff with police, they lit and proceeded to throw fireworks at officers, injuring over 20. Yes, fireworks from Independence Day. In Memphis, Black Lives Matter protesters blocked I-40 and almost caused the death of a very sick little girl whose parents desperately needed to use the highway to transport her to St. Jude's Children's Hospitals. So to recap, Black Lives Matter, but not the lives of sick children. And why did all this happen? Well, it's because the police used lethal force against two repeating offenders, both with guns, both who happened to be black. Let's learn about these two. Anton Sterling. He's been described as a gentle giant, but was he? He has an arrest record going all the way back to 1996. And here are the charges, according to Heavy.com, starting in 1996 and ending in 2016. Trespassing, damage to property, criminal mischief, illegally possessing a weapon, aggravated battery, simple battery, public intimidation, felony theft, simple burglary, aggravated battery, simple criminal damage to property, unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling, criminal damage to property, simple robbery, theft under $500, possession of marijuana, misrepresentation during booking, simple battery, aggravated burglary, expired driver's license, another driver's license issue, domestic abuse battery, illegal carrying weapons with a controlled dangerous substance, felon in possession of a firearm, contempt of court, resisting an officer by force, possession of marijuana, possession of stolen things, possession of a firearm with drugs, simple assault, failure to use a seatbelt, failure to renew registration, failure to comply with sex offender registration, possession of a Schedule I drug, possession of marijuana, first offense. That's one man, and I didn't even get to the big enchilada. When Sterling was 20 years old, he was involved in a romantic relationship with a 14-year-old girl who he had sex with, who he impregnated. And when her mother learned of the pregnancy and confronted Sterling, he responded with an attitude like he didn't care. She pressed charges, and he served time. In other words, Sterling was a convicted child rapist. And Philando Castile, well, he wasn't no saint either. According to the Daily Mail, prior to his fatal run-in with police, he had been pulled over by police at least 31 times and hit with 63 traffic charges. What's worse, according to GotNews.com, he was a Crip, a gang member. He posted things like, Merry Cripmas, Happy Blue Year on Twitter, and flashed gang signs on Facebook. Now, the real damning evidence? Well, according to the conservative treehouse, the real reason Castillo was pulled over by Officer Geronimo Yanez, well, I'll just quote, I'm going to stop a car. I'm going to check IDs. I have reason to pull it over. The two occupants just look like people that were involved in a robbery. The driver looks more like one of our suspects just because of the wide-set nose. A minute and a half later, the recording captures the first report that there was a shooting. In the robbery? Well, East Side Review News reported on July 5th that a man matching Castillo's description with another gunman at his side robbed a Super USA store at gunpoint. Does any of this mean they deserve to die? No, but it does indicate they have serious problems with police and with following the law. It indicates they may not have followed the instructions of police, and when in possession of a firearm, failing to follow police commands equals suicide by cop. How about the Dallas police officers who died or were maimed while trying to provide a semblance of law and order to a Black Lives Matter protest? We haven't heard much about them lately. I guess it's because it doesn't fit the narrative. When Castillo was robbing a convenience store, this is what Patrick Zamarripa, one of the police officers who was slain, tweeted. Happy birthday to the greatest country on the face of this planet, my beloved America. Tragic, and heartbreaking, and not in the news. I'll be back after the break with my co-host, Greg Chrysler. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm here with Greg Chrysler, and before we dive right into the Black Lives Matter movement, I think we should talk about what's going on next week, because I'm going to be in Cleveland, and I'm a little bit scared, just a little bit. Not just for my safety, because we know for a fact that there's thousands and thousands of Black Lives Matter and it's going to be in attendance. In fact, there's a rumor from some hacked data suggesting that Black Lives Matter is working in conjunction with the Attorney General to create so much havoc at this Cleveland convention that some kind of martial law is declared.
Yeah, I saw that.
But beyond that, like we talked about in the first segment, I'm worried that I'm going to have to do what I was going down there originally to do, which is to document everything that happens as they steal the nomination.
Yeah, that's insane.
Who would have thought after all these months, after 13.3 million votes, that we're all the way back to where we were in December of last year? Oh no, what if Ted Cruz steals it? What if he weasels his way like the weasel he is and steals it? Or now Jeb, I guess, is saying he's going to attend. And
yeah, really.
It's all of a sudden turning back into globalist central.
Yeah, they're really scared of the anti-globalist candidate getting in there. It sounds like they're going to do everything possible to try to stop him.
Either they're going to try to steal it through this ridiculous new rule, the conscience clause, where, well, I don't feel like it, therefore forget the will of the people. You do whatever you want. Or, I mean, I could really see if they turn it into such a violent spectacle where, you know, they wanted the Black Lives Matter people and the Trump people, the pro-Trump people, in a unity rally. They wanted to shove them all in the same, 2,000 square foot area.
Same cage, basically.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And we just got a victory from that. Last I heard, we now know that we're not going to have that happen. But then they tried to stop it again using another method, and we defeated that. But if there's widespread violence, you know, just think what happens every other time there's widespread violence. They don't blame the perpetrators. They don't blame the Soros-funded, MoveOn.org funded protesters. They blame Trump.
Yeah, it'll be Trump's fault.
All Trump's fault.
Supposedly 10,000 of them are reportedly going to be showing up, the Black Lives Matter movement.
10,000 protesters.
Yes.
Against Trump, the guy who does, there's going to be a unity rally outside with Diamond and Silk, who are two of my favorite people in this movement.
Yeah, they're awesome.
You know, we're like the white pasty Diamond and Silk. but so, I don't even understand how Black Lives Matter can have an issue with Trump.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that he's done or said that would cause the Black Lives Matter movement to have a problem with him.
I take it back. He looked at the guy in the crowd and said, "It's my African American." Clearly, he's a racist.
Yeah.
Clearly. That's the only thing that could mean.
Yeah, they're just, well, you know, for years and years and years, people have talked about how Obama was going to stage a martial law event right before the election to stay in power, which I always thought was absolute absurdity, but it sure looks like that's what's going on right now.
Well, it looks likely, and that's what's terrible. And I used to say the same thing. I used to say, all right, man, you've been listening to too much crap on the internet. You need Alex Jones. You got to turn that off eventually, man. You got to go out and poke your head into the real world.
Even he said that was bogus. Now he's saying that, yeah.
Well, and here we have it here from DCClothesline.com. Hacked messages of hashtag Black Lives Matter leader reveal Obama administration's plan for summer of chaos and martial law. On Friday, June 10th, 2016, someone hacked into the Twitter account of Black Lives Matter leader and former Baltimore mayoral candidate DeRay McKesson, who was arrested on Friday, by the way, for leading one of these violent quote-unquote protests. McKesson later confirmed the hack to the Baltimore Sun. On June 11th, a Twitter user who calls himself The Saint, at The Saint Negro, tweeted a direct message conversation on June 10th between McKesson and another BLM leader, Janetta Elsie, in which the two discussed talking with Attorney General Loretta Lynch about plans to bring on martial law by causing chaos at the upcoming Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio, and, this is what's really fascinating, and the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so as to keep Obama in office.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just read a little bit of this. Here's the conversation over the course of several days between McKesson and Elsie, and between McKesson and a white ally named Sam. And this is Elsie. Have you spoken with Mrs. Lynch recently about the plan for summer and fall leading up to the elections? And this is DeRay. We spoke 2 weeks, and they want us to start really pushing how racist Trump is now instead of waiting, so others can start getting the protesters ready to shut both conventions down. If we can get both conventions shut down for messing over Bernie and for having racist Trump, then get martial law declared so Obama can stay in office, we will win. Call you soon when I get to my dad's so I can use his landline and we can talk more about this.
Jeez.
So at this point, Black Lives Matter is just a terrorist organization sponsored by Obama.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's what this sounds like.
Yeah.
And they confirmed that this leak is legitimate.
Oh, really? Jeez.
Well, Baltimore Sun,
Yeah.
McKesson said to Baltimore Sun, yes, it was really hacked. I suppose we don't know if these messages are really in the hack.
How dirty is this attorney general we have? My God.
She's worse than the last one by far. She's the
Yeah.
one who said, after Orlando, 49 gay people slaughtered.
Mm-hmm.
We need unity and love.
Mm-hmm. And we still don't understand his motive.
And we don't understand the motive.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happened to the wife. And that's okay.
Meeting with Bill Clinton just the other week.
And meeting with Bill Clinton, and then
How are
saying
these
she would do
people-
whatever the
Yeah.
FBI suggested.
This just shows you how criminal the current government is. I mean, this is over the top, unimaginable levels of blatant criminality, more than I ever could have imagined.
I used to say people who said this type of stuff is what's happening were conspiracy-believing lunatics.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's all coming true, and it's all so in the open. You can't keep calling this a conspiracy when it's right here, when they're talking about it, when they say they met with Lynch. It's really hard to sit there and say, well, it's just a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Nobody could really believe that.
Yeah, this blows my mind, really. And it's all in the open, and no big
And
deal.
they use Twitter. They're not using PGP encryption over email or Tor mail or something like that. It's Twitter. It's the only thing more baffling than the sheer audacity of it all is the incompetence of it all. I mean,
yeah.
it's Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally nuts. How do you have these conversations? This would be like if
Because
ISIS...
it doesn't matter, obviously.
I
They
guess
can
it
get away
doesn't
with
matter.
whatever they want now.
Yeah.
We live in North Korea.
They've got an attorney general who will back them up every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
They've got an administration that refuses to call them what they are, which is a terrorist organization,
Yep.
even though something like 100,000 Americans have signed the petition on whitehouse.gov asking them to.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Yeah, and all these major sheriff's departments that are black sheriffs, by the way, are calling them a terrorist organization.
Because they're out there, they're enforcing or trying to enforce the law, and they can't. But you're right,
Yeah.
they can do all this with impunity
Mm-hmm.
because nobody's going to stop them.
Yeah,
That's where we're at.
mm-hmm.
Let us know what you think. Connect with us on Twitter and Facebook. Email me at tom@thehonestmedia.com, and we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Pappert here with Craig Chrysler, and we're talking Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. And something came up that we were talking about over the break. You know, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, is being sued by the U.S. government because Facebook allows radical Islamic terrorist group Hamas to plan organized state with what the Israeli military movements are on Facebook, in groups, on pages. They're essentially allowing Facebook to become a platform for terrorism.
Yeah.
So it's bad when Hamas does it. But when Black Lives Matter doesn't, it's a social movement. It's just a counterculture. There's nothing bad about Black Lives Matter. Never mind the 20 officers injured last weekend, the 11 officers injured or killed the weekend before. Nah, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, this Mark Zuckerberg is a real piece of work. I heard, I just saw a report. People in the Facebook office were putting up All Lives Matter stuff, and he had them rip it all down and throw it away. And apparently they're starting to censor a lot of All Lives Matter pages on Facebook.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it for an instant.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it in a video that we're going to air at the end of this segment, and it's what I recorded last week. It was my response to the Dallas police shootings and the ensuing coverage on Facebook.
Yeah, they had nothing.
They had
wouldn't mention
nothing.
it, yeah.
Nothing. The night it was happened.
There's still nothing.
Nothing
on the
trending.
yeah.
Well, if you can look now, but it's like, well, now it's probably gone by this late in the week. But you could look on Sunday, Monday, and it would be like the 8th thing trending.
Yeah.
11 officers hurt. 5 officers dead, 1 civilian hurt.
Yeah, when
had to
that's
kill the
all
guy
I
with a
saw
police
on
robot.
Facebook
Oh
all
yeah,
day.
everybody.
Not
And
trending.
you can say, well, you guys are just a couple radical conservatives. Nobody shares your views on Facebook. I call BS on that. Nothing but posts about that. You look on Twitter, it was the #1 thing trending on Twitter. But you go to Facebook, what's trending? Anton. Justice for Anton.
Yeah.
And you get some BS article about a woman who discussed sex and gender, and you get something else, which
Some
was
model posing nude,
Right.
UFC fight.
right.
Yeah.
Now the only thing that I thought that was actually news was the Hubble telescope captured some new images. That's pretty cool. But when your country is falling apart because of racial tensions sparked by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Hubble telescope, I think that goes kind of down here in the level of importance.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a radical.
But a model posing nude goes way to the top.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Because she's doing it to discuss gender. And as you know, there's a gender for every letter in the alphabet times 2.
Yeah, there's no.
That's right. And you can tell because Facebook, it's Facebook official. All you have to do is go change your gender on Facebook, and you've got any one of 5,000 options. Personally, I identify as Donald Trump. My pronouns are Trump or Trumpkin. And if you don't like it, you can delete me.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got into that side of Facebook yet.
You can. I mean, come on, the transgender community, and I'm not even talking about those alphabet soup genders because I've known real people who are transgender, and they say it's an insult. It's like you are male, or you are transitioning to female, or you are female, or you are transitioning to male. There is no umbrella of 5,000 different. I'm demigender. No, you're mentally deficient, is what you are. But that is what Facebook decides to trend, and the transgender community makes up something like 0.2% of the general population. 0.2%. So 11 officers dead. Greatest loss of police life since 9/11. And they choose to talk about gender politics.
Well, we discussed in a prior show how Facebook has the capacity to basically change everybody's emotions and what they think.
They did their experiment. That's right.
And that's what they're doing right now.
They were testing it. That's a good theory. I think they were testing it. They were testing it to see how much power they could command in the 2016 election. And it turned I don't know if it's working. I think that people like us, I think we're breaking through the conditioning because our page continues to grow and grow and grow on Facebook, and we just started this thing a little over a month ago. You look at the other alt-right pages, whether it's a meme page or a news page, they're growing at unprecedented levels. And this is while Facebook is actively censoring everything they post.
Yeah.
I think we're winning. I think that they are getting, every time they do something like this, I think it shows just how desperate they are. Days and days and days after Anton was shot, as the Dallas police shooting was happening, they're still trying to push that hashtag. They're still trying to push those stories. It's because it's not happening organically.
Yeah, that's all I saw when that happened was a paid post basically about the Anton shooting.
Well, and what's worse is they're not paid. It's just they suit Facebook's narrative, so therefore
Well, I should
it's
say
fine.
promoted post.
Promoted. There
Promoted.
you go. Well, and what drives me nuts is everybody out there. There are people sitting at home watching this right now, I guarantee you, who are going to say, maybe even write in, maybe comment on our Facebook. Well, It's a private business. They can do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
When 60% of adults get their news from Facebook, they have an ethical responsibility not to discriminate the way they are.
And it's supposed to be an open public forum.
That's the real thing.
That's what it's.
They don't go if Facebook at the top of the screen said we have a liberal bias, we're going to promote liberal news, we don't like conservatives, we don't like the alt-right, etc., etc., etc. But no, everywhere they go, everywhere on their website, every time Mark Zuckerberg, I have another name I like to use for him, Mark Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg?
That's one of them. Mark Zuckerberg. Every time Mark Zuckerberg gets out in front of a big college class or a bunch of liberals, he says, Facebook is the last bastion of free speech. We love free speech so much. That's all we're about here at Facebook. But then they censor anybody who doesn't fall within their extraordinarily narrow point of view.
Yeah, what it should say is Facebook, the last bastion for promoting the globalist agenda.
That's really it. Because
Yeah,
Facebook really is. Twitter, they're losing their capacity to do it. I used to totally discount Twitter. I didn't want to be involved with Twitter. I said Facebook is where the battle lines are because Twitter at one point was totally owned by the liberals. And it still is, but the alt-right is so vocal. All they have to do is put the echoes around somebody's name, and then all of a sudden you get that guy, whoever they put the echoes around, on CNN, on the Clinton News Network, saying, "Can you believe how anti-Semitic and racist the alt-right is?" Then every time they make fun of us, we get stronger. They don't seem to understand. Every time they talk about us, we get stronger. Because when they do that, 50 people sit there and they think, is that a journalist? Is that a journalist crying about somebody DMing them an insult on Twitter? Is that really happening?
Yeah.
They make themselves look so stupid that we look like reasonable human beings. Even the most unreasonable people on the right begin to look reasonable when you compare them to the average idiot on the left.
Yeah. That's not hard to do.
It's really not. It's really not. Maybe we give ourselves too much credit. All we have to do is look like a semblance of a normal human being, and all of a sudden we're credible.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to have my response to the Dallas police shootings, titled, What Really Pisses Me Off About the Dallas Police Shootings. And for more videos like this, we will be releasing them exclusively online, and you can find them on our Facebook, The Honest Media, on Twitter, @The Honest Media, and of course, we will post them to YouTube. And we'll be right back after these messages. You know what really pisses me off about the Dallas shooting? Limp-wristed liberals refuse to take responsibility. When a Trump supporter spits at a protester wearing a KKK uniform, the media blames Trump and talks about it for days. When Hillary Clinton ramps up racial tensions by saying things like, "Too many young black men and women have been taken from us," at the hands of police, and 12 hours later, 5 police officers lay dead and 7 more maimed in hospitals, nobody says a word. When a convicted child rapist resists arrest, doesn't declare he's carrying a weapon, and causes officers to fear for their lives to the point where they employ lethal force, even knowing their lives will be ruined by the media, Obama blames white racism. When 12 police officers and a civilian are shot in a terrorist-style attack during a Black Lives Matter rally, Obama barely says a word. Obama has been the worst president for race relations since the days of Jim Crow laws, and now he's provoking organized violence in the form of terrorist attacks against police. And his appointed successor, Hillary Clinton, well, she calls blacks super predators. Where is the liberal outrage? How about instead of blaming white racism, we look at the facts? In 2015, the Washington Post did a thorough, case-by-case examination of every police shooting over the year. You want to know what they found? White police officers killing blacks makes up less than 4% of fatal police shootings. Less than 4%. In 3/4 of police shootings, they were coming to the defense of someone who requested their help. How about instead of blaming white racism for every shortcoming of the black community, we treat blacks like human beings and report the facts? Here's an example. Blacks commit homicide at close to 8 times the rate of whites and Hispanics combined. Most of these homicides, by the way, are blacks killing other blacks. Where is the liberal outrage? Where is the rage? Where is the attempt to bring up the black community from this cycle of violence? It's nowhere. Black lives do matter. They matter so much that I'm not going to sugarcoat and lie about these facts or blame white racism or the police. Black people are human beings, and they deserve to be told the unpleasant truth and held accountable just like everybody else. According to the New Century Foundation, in 2013, of the approximately 660,000 crimes of interracial violence that involve blacks and whites, blacks were the perpetrators of 85% of the time. 85% of the time! But no, you don't dare say this aloud. White racism, liberal rage, election year politics. Did you know that while both violent and nonviolent crime has been declining in the United States since its high in 1993, 2015 saw a disturbing rise in murder in major American cities? Can you guess why? It's called the Ferguson effect. When you ruin the lives of police officers in the court of public opinion, regardless of their actual guilt, they are less likely to show up to your neighborhood at 2 a.m. when a thug with a gun tries to kill you. Do you think blacks are too unintelligent, too easily provoked, or too special to hear these harmful facts? Then you are the racist! But what really, really pisses me off about the Dallas shooting? This is what was trending on Facebook during the night of the shooting. This is what was trending on Facebook the morning after. And this is what was trending on Facebook the afternoon this video was recorded. So according to the left, black lives only matter if they're taken by police officers. And blue lives, who the hell cares? Welcome back to The Honest Media. So we ran some numbers. You know, we're not math people, but believe it or not, we knock our heads together, we can do some of it. And on Twitter right now, there are hundreds of people praising the Dallas police shootings, saying, whites had this coming. And there are people who are legitimately African Americans, black people, who are saying, race war, race war. They sound like Eric Cartman from South Park.
Yeah.
And we decided to do the math. So black people make up 13% of the United States population. Half of them are men, able-bodied men. Half of those men are in prison. So, if these Twitter warriors, these racist Twitter hate mongers got what they asked for, we're talking about 2% of the United States population versus about the other 90 to 96% of the non-incarcerated population.
Yeah.
How can you be that stupid? The armed forces would take them. I mean, did they not see what happened to the sniper? We have robots.
Yeah.
We took him down with a robot.
Yeah. It would not turn out well at all.
It would be horrific to witness. But these people have to be realistic. If there was an issue, which I maintain there is not, the issue is a systemic issue about violence within the black community as a whole. But if the issue were white racism, the answer would not be violence. They would lose that would be like, I hesitate to even make the reference, but this would be like the Jews in Germany deciding that they're going to march in the streets with their Walthers to fight back against the Nazis. It would not go well.
No.
If this were the type of society they were really living in, which that's the narrative they push, that white people are all evil Nazis.
That's what they're wanting.
It would not go well.
No, they would. It wouldn't take long for them all to be gone. Sadly to say, but
and it is. It's and and what's really sad is that this is not the average black. I choose to believe. You don't know. I choose to believe this is not the average black person. This is the equivalent of the KKK in the 1950s. It was not every white person. But when you've got Black Lives Matter, supported by almost every branch of government and the media,
stirring them up,
stirring the race relations, bringing it to a fever pitch, making it to the point where it is politically correct to hate white people.
Yeah.
It's like the guy in Memphis who just started shooting vehicles on the highway. And when the media reports it, they say, indiscriminately shooting at anybody driving by. Then you get to a little bit further into the article, and it says, everybody who was shot or killed was white. Person said he wanted to exterminate white people. It's totally insane.
Well, we know how racist the Democratic Party really is at its core, and they're supporting Black Lives Matter. Is this a ploy to get them all killed?
Well,
Honestly.
you know, maybe not to get them killed, but to keep them poor.
Yeah.
Don't let black people integrate into white society as they were before Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society. Keep them blaming everybody but themselves for their shortcomings. Keep them from getting college educations because you don't want to go to the white school. Keep them in the ghetto because you don't want to associate with white people. That's what it's doing. It's keeping black people poor. As Diamond and Silk say, it's keeping them on the Democratic plantation.
Yeah.
They couldn't have regular slavery. They couldn't have Jim Crow laws, so they brainwashed the community into doing it to itself.
Welfare is the new slavery.
Welfare is the new slavery.
Yep.
That's absolutely right. We'll be right back after these messages with our final segment. Welcome back to The Honest Media. For our last segment, this is Tom Pappert. I'm here with Craig Chrysler, and we've been talking about the Black Lives Matter movement. Funded, protected, supported by the Obama administration. Everybody's afraid to call it what it is, a terrorist organization.
At this point, most definitely, yes.
And you brought up an interesting point. Before this Black Lives Matter movement started, many people across the United States, even conservatives, were skeptical of police.
Yeah.
We used to say things like, what happened to neighborhood police? Why are they so armed to the teeth nowadays? We used to say things like, police brutality is kind of a problem. We should address that as a country. But when police are actively under attack, it's winning us over. It's making people like you and me side with police even more.
Yeah.
I now think, well, you know what? They're trained professionals. They've got these violent people in ghettos who they now have to police who don't want them there. Maybe they need the MRAP. Maybe they need the rifles.
Yeah,
Maybe
they're getting attacked and killed every day, all over the country.
And they're human beings too. They respond to incentives. They respond to stimuli, just like you and me. And if my neighborhood were so bad, where people were being shot and killed every day, and the only people who tried to prevent it were being blamed as the enemy, I might want a bigger gun too. I might be a little bit more skeptical of pulling over some guy too.
Yeah, a lot of us had a big problem with the police state, which I still do in some ways, but...
look at what they're up against.
Yeah, I mean, Black Lives Matter, you have it coming when you're out there actively shooting police and saying, fry them like bacon, and you get pulled over, have a gun, resist arrest when cops are getting killed every day, you're going to get shot.
And as far as
That's
I'm
just common
concerned,
sense.
if you have a gun, and you tell the police officer, look, man, I have a gun. And then you do this.
Yeah.
Like, let's repeat that. Look, man, I have a gun.
Bam. Yeah.
That's suicide by cop. The cop
Yeah.
immediately has a reason to be on edge if the person has a gun. It doesn't matter if it's constitutional carry, concealed carry, whatever. It's a threat.
Yeah.
It's a man with a gun coming up on another man with a gun.
All this Black Lives Matter movement has just made themselves more of a target.
I think you're absolutely right. And we blamed this on Obama a couple segments ago on our video that was posted online. Follow us online for more exclusive videos like that. Obama caused this.
Yeah.
Obama and the Democrats.
Every time Democrats have the presidential house, you see race relations just
plummet.
Go to hell.
Go to hell in a handbasket.
When Clinton was president, race relations were terrible. You saw a rise in the skinheads, the neo-Nazi movement. You saw all that rise up. This is what they do. That's
They
the only
divide
way.
us. They
yeah.
divide us on ourselves because the only way
Divide and
Democrats
conquer.
can stay in power, exactly, is if they turn, well, you see, we got to turn all these black people against the whites. That way the blacks will vote Democrat. It's disgusting. It's like Hillary Clinton going on national television and blaming white people for the Dallas shootings. Not a handful,
Yeah.
not the KKK, not Christians, not any group, but white people. Now, if I were to get on national TV and say, it's really just black people's fault, the Dallas shooting, that's not true, and it's disgusting. You can't just equate a minority. That's what people accuse Trump of doing, which he doesn't do, but that's what people accuse Trump of doing. Oh, there's some bad Muslims, therefore all Muslims are bad. Not what he says, but that's exactly what Hillary Clinton is saying.
Yeah. And then glorious Obama had barely anything to say about it besides blaming guns.
I think he was there for about 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas when it was Anton, I think it was like a 15-minute speech.
Yeah.
And these are 12 hours apart, mind you. Obama, I saw red when I watched him talk about the Dallas police shooting, and I don't know why I expected something else. I really don't.
Yeah.
But
I was surprised he even said anything at all, which he barely did.
He barely did, and
Yeah.
it was mostly just lip service. It was
Yeah.
nothing about supporting the police. And just look at Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump's first statement after the tragedy. Donald Trump, it's been a tragic day for all of us. You need to unite on this. Hillary Clinton, so sad that the police officers died doing their solemn duty to protect peaceful demonstrators. Still siding with Black Lives Matter. 5 officers dead. 11 total shot or wounded or dead. Still gotta side with the Black Lives. Still playing identity politics.
Still pandering.
Trump, not Obama, not Hillary. Trump is the one who sounds presidential in all of this.
Yeah, that's
Canceling
true.
his event, saying we need to unite as a country, calling for unity.
Yeah.
He's the only one doing it.
Yeah, he's the only one that looks presidential at all compared to all 3 of them, giving their little spiels.
But he's a clown. He's a clown. Yeah, that's the best they have. People have eyes. People aren't falling for this crap anymore.
Yeah.
One last point I want to talk about, because you brought it up a little bit. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, protesters blocked the highway, threw fireworks at police, threw bricks at police, threw water bottles at
Broke
police,
one of their
threw
necks.
smoke bombs at police,
Yeah.
broke their neck. Oh, dear
The
God.
cop had his neck broke.
And the police, after 30-plus desist orders, get home.
Yeah.
You're out unlawfully. You're blocking a major public thoroughfare. The police started throwing concussion grenades.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard at this point in time for anybody to say that the police shouldn't have done that.
Oh, yeah. You
20
can't block a highway. If a bunch of people are blocking the highway, I'm sorry, I'm running you over. I got a place to go. Get your ass off the highway.
That's
illegal anyway
it
to
is
be
illegal.
on the highway.
And
they should have been rounded up and arrested from the get-go.
they should, but because of this Black Lives Matter nonsense, because of the government siding with them every step of the way, they were afraid to enforce the law.
Yeah.
And so instead of doing the right thing and arresting those people, putting them into vans immediately, they had to do 30-plus cease and desist orders.
Yeah, they
One
could have
thing,
stopped them when they're walking up the ramp.
And these Black Lives Matter protesters are so ridiculous, so terrible people. One person brought a truckload of their family with small children onto the highway.
Yeah.
And when the police started throwing concussion grenades and everything else, they drove it to the police line and begged them to leave. The police see a truck full of people coming at them. They pepper spray the people. And then all of a sudden, it's more police on black violence.
Yeah.
Because the people brought a truck to the police line and kept driving. The police are saying, turn around. The westbound exit is clear. Turn
Yeah.
around.
Well, these aren't protests, they're riots.
They are.
I went to lots of protests, and not once was there ever any violence. No yelling at the cops. Everybody's peaceful.
No yelling, F the police, F the police.
Yeah, prime like bacon.
Really?
Yeah. Never had. That's a protest. When you start being violent, that's a riot.
That's
So-
well, and somebody online quipped this, and I'm going to repeat it at the possible opportunity of getting the chagrin of the Black Lives Matter movement, and we'll end the show on this. At least when they riot on the highway, there's nothing for them to destroy. We'll be back next week on The Honest Media.